Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast, bringing you the latest updates from the world of sports, gambling, and pop culture. Because you can't have a show without hot takes or a Tiger King meme these days. Know what I'm saying? Now, with over 200 episodes and ready to get after it again, here's your host, Dwayne Callender.
Good morning and welcome to the show, everyone. It is very early Sunday morning before 7 o'clock, and I'm coming to you live to talk about the end of the Premier League season that has been obviously delayed due to coronavirus and the project restart that is going on. A number of scenarios to talk through, so we'll get into it because all the teams are playing at the same time. So you got all 20 teams playing, so 10 games going on at the exact same time, and I will explain the various scenarios and also give the lines, my picks, and what I think will be the fantasy breakdown because we won't know the starting 11 lineups as of yet before I have to publish this episode, but I'll give my approximations. But first, we're going to talk a quick note about the Jets completing a trade of Jamal Adams to the Seattle Seahawks. I actually have to give the Jets credit because more often than not, I would say that the Jets, you know, if you were willing to bet money on if the Jets were going to win or lose a deal, 9.5 out of 10, the Jets lose a trade. It's just one of the reasons why everyone mocks the Jets so often is the fact that more often than not, the Jets tend to botch trades. It just goes without saying. So, you know, when it comes down to it, when Jamal Adams starts calling out Woody Johnson and Christopher Johnson, then he starts calling out Adam Gase, the team's head coach. He calls out the front office for being a bunch of losers and that there's no winning culture at the New York Jets, which is true. What he said wasn't exactly false. But when you say that, you only further diminish your trade value. The fact that the Jets were able to get 2 first-round picks from Seattle and you know, in terms of the haul, it's 2 first-round picks. So they get the first-round pick from 2021, and they get the 2022 first-round pick from the Jets, as well as a third-round pick. You know, all in all, I gotta say the Jets won the trade. Because here's the thing about this trade. Jamal Adams, all-pro safety, very young. He's not even in his he's not even 25 yet. Very young. Just beginning the cusp of his career. So he's going to be a contributor to Seattle for years to come, and I would be shocked that they couldn't get an extension done with him. So he's going to fix a lot of holes that appeared in Seattle's defense with the retirement of Cam Chancellor and losing Earl Thomas last year as well. The Legion of Boom was far removed from Seattle's defense last year, and their defense showed it because they were very easy to throw against. Even with Shaquille Griffin and Quandre Diggs, you could pick on Seattle in terms of their secondary because they just didn't have the talent all across the field to be flexible enough to do some of the things that they're accustomed to doing in their defensive schemes. So there was a very apparent need to be addressed. Now, they traded for Quentin Dunbar, who, again, is in his own world of trouble because partying in Miami, he has his own legal issues due to the fact that he was with DeAndre, the worst pick in Giants football history. The worst overall pick. DeAndre Baker, as I said,
the worst
pick for the Giants in their franchise history. Those two knuckleheads decided to rob people at a party in Miami and are still being investigated. So the NFL is still looking into Quentin Dunbar. So it's a big if that Quentin Dunbar, even if everything goes off without a hitch in terms of the NFL season, which again, big question mark, there's a very good chance that Quentin Dunbar is going to be suspended for a significant amount of time because, I don't know, armed robbery seems to be violating the professional conduct code of the NFL. Maybe Goodell looks past it, but I kind of think that there's going to be a major issue with that. So, again, big question mark with Diggs. You don't know what's going to go on with the pandemic in the fall. You know, we're all hoping for the best, but let's be realistic here, folks. We're past 4 million cases in the U.S. You know, I keep saying to wear a mask. There's just too much going on right now that I have very severe doubts about the football season come fall at the rate we're going at. We're not even close to slowing the spread of the virus down at this stage. And people will just seem to be throwing their hands up in the air and giving up. So I have reservations about the NFL season upcoming, which is driving me up the wall crazy. But, you know, as it stands, on paper, Seattle got the best player, and it fills a need, and it gives them a win-now opportunity with Russell Wilson still in his prime. I think that Seattle is very dangerous from a balance standpoint in the NFC West because, A, Russell Wilson is that damn good, and B, the Seattle defense is certainly elevated with the acquisition of Jamal Adams at safety. Now, the problem is, again, I'm not sure what's going to go on this season. So, by sheer default, I think the Jets won this trade because even though I fully expect Adam Gase to be fired, win, lose, or draw by the end of this Jets season because he's that terrible of a head coach, the Jets will have ample draft picks so that they can actually do a proper rebuild. And again, you don't want to rebuild when you already just drafted Sam Darnold, but the Jets have so many issues to sort out. And again, I don't think Jamal Adams was wrong, but Jamal Adams was never going to stay with the Jets. So considering the amount that they got in the haul, I actually think that the Jets won this trade. I think it's an A trade for the Jets. Just because of their sheer dysfunction, I think it's an A trade. For Seattle, I put it at a B, B-. Because here's the thing. As much as you would say, from a performance standpoint, this would be an A trade for the Seahawks, this is a win-now kind of trade. And we got so many question marks heading into the NFL season this year. I got to put this in terms of the forecasting as, wow, they went all in a year where you could easily be driving off the cliff into a chasm. I just can't give Seattle that much high plaudits for the trade. I think you could have extorted the Jets a bit more. I don't see the rush to make this trade. Adams was only going to be continue to be more of a malcontent, and again, I don't know how many other teams were going to be that in on making the acquisition for Adams. To me, it was a very much of a delicate situation that Adams turned off a lot of teams. I just kind of look at it as saying Seattle may have been bidding against themselves, even though there might have been teams that were looking at Jamal Adams. The amount of people that probably could have just made the case of, Adams very realistically could be in a position where, at the end of the day, maybe not worth the trouble. I just was not convinced that Seattle needed to offer up as much as they did. It's entirely possible that They could have gotten fleeced or jumped ahead by the Cowboys or the Eagles, but and maybe even the Lions. But or Bill O'Brien offering up multiple draft picks because that would be the Bill O'Brien thing to do. I just think that at the end of the day, Seattle may have been bidding against themselves. All right. Other story of knuckleheads in the NBA. We got Lou Williams currently being investigated by the NBA because he left the bubble environment in Orlando for some mental excuse break absence. He did obtain a proper excuse absence from the NBA in order to leave without facing a penalty for leaving the bubble. What that didn't entail was going to a strip club for a party. Yes, in the middle of a pandemic, we got an NBA player deciding that it's a great idea to go to a strip club with a rapper for a birthday party celebration. So yes, the NBA is investigating Lou Williams. We got the NBA season restarting in less than a week on the 31st. Less than a week. There's no way Lou Williams is going to be back by the time he comes back in, and the NBA is not going to let him back in because they're going to probably force him to wait out the full 2 weeks. Lou Williams probably may have costed himself a chance to actually get any playing time before the playoffs. I don't know if that was his plan or not, but it's A, irresponsible. B, what if you even test positive? You may miss out on the playoffs, dude. Like I said, I have my doubts about the NBA bubble holding up over time, but it's because of stupidity like this that we're in this position right now across the country. But be that as it may, we're going to get into the Premier League breakdown right after the break here. Stay tuned, folks.
Don't go anywhere. The Fantasy Throwdown Podcast will be right back after our sponsors pay the bills. Welcome back to the show. Hope you got your popcorn ready.
All right, we are back, and it's time to get into the Premier League standing. So, as it stands, obviously Liverpool already won the league. They've secured everything that they set out to do, which was just win the league. They already won Champions League last year. This year was all about winning the league title. They kind of lost some steam after restarting from the pandemic, which, again, this whole project restart, ambitious, mainly because the Premier League season all but ended 3 months ago by all stretch. Folks, you will see, some of these teams that I'm going to get into literally shut off the motor since the restart. They could say what they want. They just were not playing hard. And some of the quality of these games have reflected that. One of these teams being Norwich. Norwich has long since been relegated. They've lost all 8 league games since the restart. And, they're a complete waste of time. So they've been relegated. Meanwhile, you've got the other teams at the bottom. Bournemouth tried very hard to survive this Premier League season. Too many injuries, not enough talent on the roster, and they had contract issues with the players coming out of this restart. So, again, one of the things that is at play here is that the Premier League season, for all intents and purposes, ended in May. A number of these teams had to renegotiate contracts with players just to extend into this project restart. Bournemouth just didn't have the money to keep some of their players, and their players kind of opted out, even with the team in the relegation battle, because they looked at it and say, why am I going out of my way to stay on when you guys aren't looking to extend me anyway and pay me some wages? The problem with Bournemouth, and it happens with these clubs that are on the smaller tier and they can't raise the revenue. Once you're in the Premier League and you're having to compete year after year, if you can't scale your operations to keep some of your veteran players, you have to have the academy players be good enough to supplant those regular starters that are going to be circled out of the rotation. Bournemouth just did not have the young players capable of taking over the reins, and they've been in this relegation battle pretty much since even as early as early December, they were in the relegation battle. And in order to avoid relegation today, they actually need to win against Everton, and they need Watford and Aston Villa to lose. They are in the worst spot of all. They don't control their destiny, and they need both teams to lose so they can skate by on goal differential, because they're only at 31 points. Villa and Watford are at 34, and the only way they can survive is by goal differential, which Bournemouth should be able to do if both Villa and Watford lose, mainly because like I said, the goal differential should play out in Bournemouth's favor, all things considered. Although there is a scenario where I think Bournemouth might still get relegated if Villa loses but scores enough goals to stay up in a weird three-way tie scenario. But let's just try to keep it as simple as possible. Bournemouth needs to win, and they need a lot of help. As simple as that. Watford in 18th position. They need a win against Arsenal. Basically win because Watford has to play Arsenal today. Villa's playing West Ham. West Ham's guaranteed survival, so West Ham doesn't have much to play for. Villa should be able to get a W here. Watford absolutely has to beat Arsenal. And the dumbest thing about Watford is the fact that they fired their manager, Nigel Pearson, with 2 games left of the season. Pearson was the best person to actually be able to get them prepared to steal points off of Arsenal today. You fired Nigel Pearson heading into a matchup against Manchester City, of all teams. Get torched to the degree of 4-0. That's putting you in the relegation zone by goal differential because you lost 4-0. If you had Pearson there, maybe you actually maintain the damage, so it's only a 2-0 defeat. That would still keep you above the relegation zone and have Villa below you. The rationale of Watford is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen a team do in soccer. It made no sense whatsoever. I don't even know why I'm getting this upset, because I actually want to see Watford relegated, because since they've been in the Premier League, their entire management structure is chaos. They've fired a multitude of managers over their entire existence in the Premier League because they believe that you can just recycle someone in and just have the players respond immediately to the change. It doesn't work that way. They actually broke their own roster by not cycling out some of their older players. They have the oldest roster in the Premier League. This team is on the way down anyway. Nigel Pearson did yeoman's work for not a whole lot of credit from his board, clearly, since he got fired. But Nigel Pearson did enough work getting them out of the danger zone because they were in the relegation zone for the vast majority of this season. And deservedly so. They were worse than Norwich for most of this season. Pearson actually got them turned around, moved them up from 20th, rock bottom, into 14th place. They were actually in a relatively good spot before the Project Restart began. They actually won some games. But guess what? Everyone is so tight together, teams started pulling away. And, you know, if you can't get results and you're losing badly, you end up where Watford is right now, back in the relegation zone, because it was always going to be a tight battle. Anyway, Aston Villa, as I said, playing West Ham that doesn't have much to play for. West Ham got their big draw against got their draw against Man United on Wednesday. So they're guaranteed safety in the Premier League. Clearly, they celebrated. I can't see West Ham putting up much resistance today, but we're going to get into the lines. To me, Villa's in the safest position out of the three. It makes the Watford situation even dumber than before. But let's get into the lines right now. Watford, essentially in a pick'em spot because Arsenal, man, I just, you know, I look at Arsenal and I just get more and more frustrated with the way this Arsenal season went along. Our Arsenal is favored. It is technically a home game for Arsenal. Watford's plus 280, Arsenal's minus 110. You know, Watford put themselves in a terrible spot. I'm not sure if they get themselves out of it because as much as Arsenal has shown to be just completely dysfunctional this year and deserving of not playing in Europe this year unless somehow they win the FA Cup against Chelsea. More on that to come later. Again, the fact that Arsenal is playing in the FA Cup final and yet still found themselves on the outside looking in of Europe when all they had to do was actually put in just a few decent performances in the Premier League that weren't that hard to actually find themselves in the top 7. Again, just oh God, I can't talk about Arsenal. Can't talk about Arsenal without losing my temper. So let's just leave it this way. I think our Arsenal loses today. I think Watford at least gets a point out of this, but I actually think Watford finds a way to backdoor their way into a win against Arsenal, 2-1 victory. It would just encapsulate Arsenal's season in a nutshell, dropping this matchup to Watford when everyone's counting them out at this point. I think Arsenal would find a way to give Watford a sign of life to somehow get out of relegation, which I don't think they will. I think they beat Arsenal and still get relegated because I think Villa beats West Ham today. Moving on, we got a matchup that doesn't really count for anything. Brighton playing at Burnley. The pick here is for a draw. Neither team has much to play for. The over-under is set at 2.5. I would take the under. Both these teams are just going to be looking to pack it in and call it a holiday. I'd be shocked if I see any kind of fireworks in this game. They both will tend to kind of play on the more conservative side anyway when they're not searching for points. And like I said, neither team has much to play for here. I'd be shocked if anything goes down with this one. Moving on to Villa and West Ham. Villa, the odds are still more tilting towards a draw, but Villa direct head-to-head, Villa is plus 130, West Ham's plus 200. Like I said, the odds makers are more factoring in a draw here. I actually think Villa gets the point, gets the full 3 points here, just because West Ham had their moment in the sun. I mean, the amount of celebrating they did because they drew against Manchester United, you stayed up in the Premier League, but man, West Ham, you got some work to do. You should be a far more important fixture in the Premier League right now than you are at the moment, and I just don't know what it's going to take to fix West Ham at the moment. But that's where it stands. Bournemouth plus 200 at Everton plus 115. Over under is at 3. Bournemouth's going to go balls to the wall here. Everton could blitz them and put up 3 or 4 goals because Bournemouth is going to play fast and loose just the way they have their entire run in the Premier League. They're going to attack and leave them vulnerable to the counterattack. And Richarlison is very much a case where you could see him from a fantasy perspective. Obviously, we don't know what the lineups are going to be, but I think Everton has a good chance of scoring here. The over-under's at 3. I would definitely take the over on this matchup because, like I said, Bournemouth has to win. They're going to do everything it takes, and if not, they're going to get run off the pitch. It's just that simple. There is no tomorrow for Bournemouth. Bournemouth's got to do everything they can or get blown out. Just the only way to go about it at this stage for Bournemouth. All right. Now talking about the delicate situation for Champions League. Because we've got a scenario where you got Manchester United in 3rd, Chelsea in 4th, Leicester in 5th. Leicester and Man U play against each other today in a potential knockoff round. Chelsea has to contend against Wolves. Wolves can't get into top 4, but they do have the ability of making Chelsea's life miserable with a victory here today. And again, the way Wolves play, their counterattacking style is a dangerous matchup for Chelsea. I will say this, Chelsea has their hands full because Wolves, if they guarantee 6th spot with a win, because Spurs could jump Wolves. It's not like Wolves doesn't have anything to play for here. They get if they secure 6th, they are guaranteed to play in Europa. 7th, they got to go through the qualification round if Tottenham betters Wolves. So again, Chelsea, all they need to do is get a draw, and they finish 4th. The problem with Chelsea is that I don't know which Chelsea team shows up year over year. So it's a case where game to game, Chelsea could try to play this conservatively and sit back. I could see Lampard trying to say, let's get the point. Let's not go too crazy over it. But knowing the competitor Frank Lampard is, as he was as a player and being a manager, I think he tells his squad to let's go for it. We can beat this team. I think they actually go for it. This one is the most interesting matchup of the day, in my opinion, because I have a feeling that Manchester United Leicester game, I think Man U parks the bus and forces Leicester to try to break them down. I don't think that Man U game is nearly going to be as entertaining as people would want it to be. So I think the Wolves-Chelsea game, that's the game to watch in terms of entertaining football of the main matchups. And because of the weird production schedule on NBC, I'm not even sure which game is going to be on which. I'm trying to check the listings here right now to see how they're going to break this one up, because the again, with 10 matches going on, NBC's trying to air everything at the exact same time. So, okay, so Chelsea Wolves is going to be on USA Network. Leicester Man U is on NBC. Of course, Man U got the NBC spot. United. Oh, West Ham Villa on NBCSN. I guess because they want to see the relegation battle. Watford and Arsenal on Golf Channel. Everton Bournemouth on CNBC. And then we have the remainder of the matchups either on the Peacock Network, which is NBC's streaming service, or NBC Sports Gold. So that's the lineup. Wow, they aren't even doing it. Oh, they used to actually put some of these games on the other cable channels, like Bravo and it. Man, they are really pushing this Peacock Network. Again, terrible name for a streaming service, but NBC is the Peacock Network. Just dating back to its history because of color television. But again, no one in the current generation is even going to know why it's called Peacock. I'm getting up. I was like, I'm not even that old, but at least I know the history behind it. No one that's even in the 22 to 25-year-old age demographic that you're targeting is going to know why this is called Peacock. They're going to think it's just a dumb name. But anyway, I digress. So here's the thing. I look at these matchups, and I'm looking at this Manchester United Leicester City game. People are expecting fireworks because it's a playing game. I think Man U just parks the bus and forces Leicester to try to break them down. And I'm not entirely sure, with as poor a form as Leicester has been in lately, that they can actually break down Man United, because if you've been following the Project Restart, Leicester has been pretty much a 500 team since the restart. Man U's been one of the hotter teams, just in terms of results, because they haven't dropped points since the restart. Yeah, they just had a draw against West Ham. They drew against Southampton, but they were racking up wins previously. And the problem is that Leicester, they just got drummed by Spurs 3-0, and their only wins came against Crystal Palace, who hasn't won anything since the restart. Talk about teams that are already done. So they got a win against Crystal Palace, and they got a win against Sheffield United, which also has been sputtering since the restart. So again, I don't know what to make of Leicester City right now because their form is so haphazard. Yeah, they got Jamie Vardy, but I don't really see Leicester getting a win here if United does what I think they're going to do and park the bus. I think they're just going to sit behind and force Leicester to actually try to break them down. Because to me, the pathway for victory for Leicester City is Man U comes out attack and then Leicester City hits them on the counter. The problem is that Man U doesn't have the incentive to go out and attack. They're in third. All they need to do is play it safe. You're going to go to Champions League. If you open yourselves up, then you're at risk of getting dropped from Champions League entirely. So, I just don't think that's necessarily going to be entertaining football. Maybe I end up being wrong, but I'm not necessarily seeing the pathway where this turns into a very entertaining game. I think it's going to come down to the Chelsea Wolves game. Meanwhile, Spurs. Oh, Spurs. Spurs fans are thinking that I'm trying to actually sucker them into a situation where they're going to get upset. To me, the easiest bet of the day is Spurs minus 180 at Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace has lost every matchup since the restart. Let me repeat that again. Every matchup since the restart, they've lost. All seven. All seven. And no, I don't give... because people were trying to say that they put in a great effort against Man United. They tried they put in some effort. I could see some players working hard, but were they working as a unit? No. This to me, this is like if I'm betting on these games, to me, this is the lock of the day. If Spurs doesn't get a win against Palace, something's like it would be more of a sign that Mourinho pissed off his own squad heading into this one, and they just tuned him out because there's no way Crystal Palace should be able to get a result today against Spurs. None. There's been nothing from Crystal Palace today. So, as much as everyone would say the lock of the day is Man City against Norwich, which again, Norwich should get blown out 4-0 or 5-0 or 6-0, depending on however many goals Man City feels like scoring today, because it's technically David Silva's last game for Man City, because as much as they want to keep him, Silva has already said he wants to retire. Well, not retire, but he wants to go back to Spain and basically kick off his retirement tour. Man City is going to crush Norwich, but, I would have very little concerns about betting Tottenham straight up to beat Palace. You could throw in a parlay with City, scoring at 3 goals or 4 goals against Norwich into that as well if you want to do it that way. But to me, the money is betting on Tottenham against Palace. Tottenham has everything to play for here against a Palace team that has nothing to play for and has shown that they don't care about the results that they're getting. So to me, this is the most straightforward bet of the entire slate of games. I just don't know how some of these other matchups are going to play out because, again, I would take the under in the Leicester City United game. I know it's at under 2.5. I would take the under. To me, that just seems to be the more likely scenario. Liverpool, they've already won the title. Playing Newcastle, maybe they score some goals. Maybe they just only go up 2-0 and just play keep away from there. Liverpool did what they needed to do. I'm not necessarily going to be targeting that game, but the Tottenham Palace game, to me, that's just the automatic play there. I'm not going to deviate from that one whatsoever. It is what it is. I'm going hard after it. I expect this line should be higher. It should be higher. I don't know why it was only at -180. I expect this to start creeping up closer to 200 before game because what else are people looking at? Like, if you're looking at this objectively, Palace has not done anything since the restart happened. We're a month and a half into this, and Palace hasn't done anything. So, like I said, this is pretty straightforward. I'm just taking Spurs to win this one outright, and I expect multiple goals against Palace here. To me, this one's very straightforward. So that's gonna be the show for today. In terms of fantasy picks, again, we're not gonna know the lineups, but I would say the guys you want to be targeting would be Man City forwards. Anyone in a midfield or forward position on DraftKings for Man City, go after him. Marcus Rashford, he's only going to be $7K on DraftKings. Decent tournament play because everyone's going to be playing City players. But I'm playing a lot of Harry Kane, and I'm playing a lot of Heung-min Son on Tottenham. To me, going after Palace should be the number one priority for everyone. I just don't see any reason why to get cute with it in terms of doing anything else. To me, that's the play. And again, in terms of defense and goalkeeper, whatever's cheapest to make work, go it from there. Wan-Bissaka, I would actually take at 4.2K. Mendy 4.4K on City. Just because I expect I expect City to blank out Norwich and send them on their way back to the league championship. We got Leeds promoted. We also have West Brom promoted. So to me, that's not so much West Brom. West Brom, I could easily do without. But replacing Norwich with Leeds, absolutely that's a win. As much as I dislike Leeds, I'd rather have compelling teams and fan bases back in the Premier League than teams and fan bases that are just happy to be here, which is what Norwich is for all intents and purposes. That's what they do. So that's going to do it for the show. I'm going to get this episode uploaded because these games are starting at 11 a.m. on the East Coast, so not a whole lot of time left, but thanks for listening, and until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major outlets.